Good evening, this is the Oscar expert here, and it's time to talk about all the Oscar-nominated shorts. This is the first year that I've decided to watch every short, and we're going to give brief thoughts on each one. Let's start with the animated shorts. An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake and I Think I Believe It is an interesting little meta short where a little clay man working in an office is beginning to realize that he is inside of an animation, and most of the movie is actually filming the monitor in which the film is being created on, and in the background you see the set and the hands that are manipulating all the little puppets. What was interesting to find out was that this short was made by somebody during the pandemic, like basically by himself. Just kind of a funny, quirky animated short that acts a little bit as an ode to the painstaking process of animation, though I don't think the sort of like glitch in the matrix thing necessarily adds up to anything we haven't seen, but this was a cool short. Ice Merchants was one of my favorites. It's about a father and a son who live in the suspended house on a cliff and they dive down every day to go sell their frozen ice. This one had the most stunning animation out of all the shorts. The use of color was really spectacular and meaningful. The animation often uses like this warped perspective where things look really wide, and a lot of the shots are honestly pretty breathtaking in this. The story builds to a heartbreaking visual reveal. The whole thing was really impressive. The sound design was great, the score was really good, and overall the visual storytelling, there's no dialogue in this, was really impressive. My Year of Dicks was my favorite out of the animated shorts, and possibly out of all the shorts. This is an adaptation of a memoir in which a girl recounts her teenage years trying to lose her virginity to several shitty guys. The animation is mostly rotoscoped, but what makes it really special is how hyper stylized the animation is. It really exaggerates every little tumultuous moment in this girl's head, and it ends up reflecting all the cringe-inducing awkwardness and euphoric highs that come with being a teenager seeking love, seeking romance. There's a great moment in the middle where the animation will sometimes burst into like anime. It was really funny, super fast-paced, and ultimately kind of sweet. The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, which is considered a potential Oscar frontrunner in the category, is an adaptation of a children's book. It's 30 minutes long. It's a little bit Winnie the Pooh-esque. It involves some talking animals who end up banding together with this little boy who's looking for home even though he doesn't have one. And they just get together and they just start sharing life lessons. This movie does kind of just spout like every single little lesson that it can, even when it's unearned. Like things will happen out of the blue, like the horse will lean over to the boy and be like, "You're worth it." And the kid's like, I don't know, like why the horse could tell that the boy had like a self-esteem issue. You know, some of the animals will just randomly open up. The other animal will make them feel better. Honesty is always interesting. And then everyone's like feeling so good. I really like the animation in this one. Pretty beautiful. The music is very pretty. And overall, it was cute and entertaining and light. And there's a good message in here about who your family really is. You know, it's not exactly groundbreaking, but it's also a kid's movie. So even the unearned life lessons in here that feel a little bit silly, like I can kind of forgive them just knowing that this is just for kids. They're just trying to feed children good morals and good values. And last, The Flying Sailor. This one has some really cool animation, but I feel like there's ultimately not that much to the story. It's like 7 minutes long. It's about this undescript sailor who gets blown by like a boat explosion 2 kilometers away, and it's like a slow motion, him flying in the air naked, kind of having flashbacks to his life, and it is based on a true story, which is pretty nuts. But I feel like this was really just an exercise in style, and they just took the story because they were like, well, this would be cool to animate. And they did make it cool, but this main character, there's not really like any development or anything like that. And I don't even know if they learn anything after their life flashes before their eyes. Like, I'm just not sure. So this was probably my least favorite of the animated shorts. If I were to put them in order, it'd probably be My Year of Dicks, Ice Merchants, The Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse, An Ostrich Told Me the World is Fake, and then The Flying Sailor. Moving on to the documentary shorts. Haul Out was maybe the best of the bunch. Possibly the most well-shot film out of all the shorts. This movie follows a scientist who observes this great migration of walruses, and the images in this film are striking. There's just a sea of walruses like crammed together, like a human crushing of walruses, all surrounding this one cabin. But it's also very sad Yeah, because they're suffering because the migration is not easy because ice melted because of global warming. So there's an environmental message in here that's pretty powerful. But the color grading, the compositions, again, like the cinematography is pretty stunning. There's a shot where like he opens the door and the walruses are just there and it's like, oh my God. Also, the sound design is amazing. I don't know if they just had like really high quality recording equipment or if it was done in post. The sound of the walruses and everything, it was super vivid and really crisp and high quality. Ultimately, this documentary is probably pretty unlike anything else you've seen and well worth a watch. How do you measure a year? This director filmed his daughter every day on her birthday from ages 2 to 18, and this is the final product of that. This documentary is appealing in the ways that you would expect. Like, it's fun to see somebody grow up in just 30 minutes, to see how her goals change, to watch her get like smarter, and to see the things that stay consistent. So yeah, it's just cool to watch this girl evolve into an adult, and you can notice a progression with every single year, which is pretty interesting. I wouldn't say that it got at anything super like deep and profound, but her dad does ask her a lot of questions that sort of get her to reveal things like her priorities and what she thinks is important in life. And it ends with a touching moment that kind of wraps up the relationship between the father and daughter. So I thought this one was good. Stranger at the Gate is one of my favorites in this category. It's about a US veteran who planned on killing Muslim people in his town, but then they were so nice to him that he decided not to do it. I thought this was a pretty miraculous story of somebody changing their mind because they were shown love and kindness, changing a perspective that was ingrained in him his whole life. And it did a good job diving into how being in the US military could corrupt somebody's mind to think that the enemies that they're forced to kill are not human at all. Now, I checked Letterboxd after watching this, and I was kind of annoyed to see a lot of people being really dismissive about this movie. And for some reason, I want to address the things that people are saying about this. One of the main criticisms that people have is like, this movie is about how it's on Muslim people to educate white supremacists to not commit crimes. That's the message of the movie. And it's like, no, that's like a way of framing the movie, and you can pretend that that's the message, but the message of the movie is that when you treat everybody with kindness, good things happen. Everybody who is involved in this story agrees on the message of the story, and for some reason you're like rejecting the message that they're like, yeah, this is the message of this interesting event that happened. Did you want the movie to be about how it's on the responsibility of the individual to educate himself? Because that's just not the story, and often we need other people to help us to change the way that we think. The message of the movie is that these people who are damaged are maybe the ones who need the most kindness. And I don't know, I just feel like it's weird that people are rejecting that message. Like, the top Letterboxd review is so cute. He almost killed 200 people, but he learned that it was wrong. And it's like, yeah, it's really hard for people to change their mind about stuff. And so I liked watching a story where somebody was able to change his mind. And there are people who are pretending like it doesn't address like the causes of white supremacy and these beliefs. And it's like, yeah, it does. It's the US Army. The US Army it taught him this. And it explicitly says that. The documentary is definitely not the most creatively made in the category, but you won't really be thinking about the filmmaking too much. The story itself is compelling. So anyway, I thought this was very good. The Elephant Whisperers, this is a very heartwarming documentary about this couple in South India who takes care of elephants, and they raise them like they're their own babies, and they love for them just as deeply as they would a child. And you know, that may be hard to believe, like just as deeply as a child, but I actually do believe that after watching the movie. This is just a miraculous story about the bond between humans and animals. And there's a lot of great elephant footage in here. There are cute baby elephants. They're playing soccer. The elephants play soccer sometimes. The documentary is very well shot, and I found it very enjoyable. Finally, the Martha Mitchell effect. This is about Martha Mitchell, the cabinet wife who spoke out during Watergate against Nixon and his administration, even speaking out when her husband wouldn't. It's really just an ode to this woman who, in a decade where women are expected to kind of be subservient and be the ones who are on the outside of all the politics, this one woman just insisted on being her loud self, refused to be intimidated into silence. And it's a really good unsung hero story because in many ways, it seems like the Watergate scandal may not have been as exposed were it not for Martha Mitchell. In 40 minutes, the documentary definitely covers everything you kind of need to know about this. I wouldn't say it goes like super deep into anything, and it is really all like archival footage. So this was solid, and it was an interesting true story that I now know about that I didn't know about. If I were to rank these, it would probably be Haul Out, Stranger at the Gate, The Elephant Whisperers, The Martha Mitchell Effect, and How Do You Measure a Year. But I feel bad even putting that one at the bottom. Like, I still like that movie. You know, these are all solid. The live action shorts were possibly the most underwhelming bunch, if I'm being honest. An Irish Goodbye is a sweet drama about two brothers who are home after their mom died, and one of the brothers wants to complete the mother's list that she left behind of things she would have liked to do before she died. It has some Irish dark comedy in there. I don't think the movie ends up being anything more than like a sweet story. It's entertaining. I enjoyed it. I think it's a really solid short film. Ivalu takes place in Greenland, and it's about a young girl who is trying to find her missing sister. The story is told through poetic, visually striking language. The girl like wanders off to the glaciers and is running all around them, and there's like a bird flying, and it's probably the best cinematography out of any of the live action shorts. I think what the movie really builds to is mostly just like sad stuff, but it's done, as I said, in a very poetic way, which I appreciated. I thought overall it was pretty strong. Some of the stuff that is revealed in this movie has caused a lot of people to accuse it as being misery porn, and I think it's a little harsh, but I can see like where that comes from. Les Pupilles is the longest short of the bunch, directed by Alice Rohrwacher, who's actually a very well-known French filmmaker known for Happy as Lazaro. It's about a bunch of girls in a Catholic boarding school. It takes place around Christmas time. It's a Disney Plus short, so technically I guess it's kind of like a kid's thing, maybe a little Matilda or Oliver Twist-ish. This one definitely has the biggest production value with the sets and the costumes. I did feel like the storytelling was a little disjointed though. Even though other people seem to be enjoying this one quite a bit, I felt connected to the storyline surrounding the main girl, but the little girl doesn't even seem to get that many moments, despite the fact that she's kind of the main character. Although I guess you could say it's just about like the orphanage as a whole. I don't know, the movie just didn't really hook me. There were a lot of things that seemed like they were done just to kind of be quirky, like the children singing, and there's one part where one of the nuns goes to fetch this guy, and for some reason they show her like going to get the guy, and it's in fast motion, and it's like kind of quirky and weird, and it's like, why even do any of that? And at the end of the movie they're like singing about how the story has no meaning and like destiny or something, and it's like, maybe the story didn't have any meaning. I guess it's kind of trying to be like an ode to these young kids' minds apart from the influence of this church. I don't know, there's just something about it that didn't click with me, and it didn't really say anything that I like cared about. Night Ride's a little bit of a weird one. The main character steals a train on the way home because she wants to get home, and then the movie is like, well, she has the train, what do we do now? And it's like, let's throw in a conflict. They spun the wheel of conflict, and the wheel landed on trans woman enters the train and gets bullied, and then she has to decide what to do about it, and it's like, okay, I mean, sort of disconnected from whatever we started as, but like, sure. But I feel like this story was just kind of made to be a little sweet and wholesome and not much else. And it didn't really feel like it used this trans character in like a very deep way. It just kind of had her be a thing where it's like, the audience knows that bullying is wrong and we want somebody to stand up for this. So it just kind of evokes a very familiar scenario that the audience has a very clear idea of what should be done about it. I didn't dislike it, but thinking about it more, I'm like, I don't know like what that was. And finally, The Red Suitcase, which was probably my favorite out of all the live action shorts. The story follows a 16-year-old girl who's at the airport to meet her arranged marriage older husband who she's never met before. And she is like terrified and decides that she's gonna try to evade this guy, and all she knows is that she doesn't want to be with him, but she has no idea like what else to do. She doesn't have a lot of money, she has nowhere to go, and it all takes place at the airport. It actually makes for kind of a tense thriller of this like weird cat and mouse game where she's trying to avoid him. But it's also, you know, really sad, and it does a great job putting you in the perspective of somebody who just like desperately does not want to enter the life of this like random man, and in a pretty obvious way shows how terrible arranged marriages can be. But I thought the ending was also interesting in that it didn't seem to approach any sort of like obvious easy conclusion. There's an element of uncertainty that lingered after the movie ended that I really appreciated. So if I were to rank the live action shorts, it would probably be The Red Suitcase, An Irish Goodbye, Ivalu, Les Pupilles, and Night Ride. Although I feel like Les Pupilles deserves to be number 3. It's just, I just didn't really connect with it. I did feel like there was kind of a lack of bangers in this category. Like, I think that there are probably stronger shorts out there. If there's any program that I would recommend seeing the most, I would recommend seeing the animated shorts. There are at least 2 in there that are really good. And what's fun about watching the animated shorts is they're all vastly different styles. And short films are always experimenting with animation in ways that most mainstream animated films that will show up in your theater are not doing. The documentaries are like divided into 2 showings at some theaters, which I would not pay for myself. And also you can find 4 out of 5 of the documentary shorts online. I think you can find most of the animated shorts online, including My Year of Dicks, which is on Vimeo, and Ice Merchants, which is on YouTube. Haul Out is also available online, would recommend. Stranger at the Gates online. A lot of my faves were online. I don't think the Red Suitcase is, though. Most of the live action films were not available online. That is the one program that I went to the theater to see. Maybe I have to start making this a tradition of watching all the shorts. And if you're curious about what I think will win the Oscar, and if I have any insights based on what I've seen, I kind of do agree The Boy, the Mole, and the Fox Horse maybe is just gonna win. But I've talked to 2 people who separately saw the shorts program and said people were laughing in the theater. I don't know if that says anything. I think if anything were running up, it might be My Year of Dicks or Ice Merchants I could see winning, just because they're good. And maybe the Oscars are gonna be like, yeah, I don't want to go for the one that's for kids. And also, they usually go for something a little shorter. It would be the longest winner in, as far as I am aware of. And last year, Robin was a 30-minute short for kids that did not win because they were probably just like, yeah, it's cute, but we're going to go for like something that's for adults. So honestly, maybe something else can win. Documentary, I think The Elephant Whisperers, I kind of agree that's probably the strongest here. And it has animals in it. I wouldn't be surprised if Stranger at the Gate won, just because that story has the kind of messaging I can see voters getting behind. I feel like that's the runner-up, even though it's like number 4 on Gold Derby, and if you're number 4 on Gold Derby, usually like don't win short. I also don't know if me watching these has made me more or less biased when predicting. Live action, I think Le Pupil might win. I mean, it's got a famous filmmaker behind it. It's got Disney+. And Alfonso Cuarón is a producer, and he would actually win another Oscar if this film wins. I don't know if that's on voters' minds. And it has children in it. People like it more than me usually. I feel like that one is the best shot, but I could definitely see An Irish Goodbye winning as well. And, we have a very Irish year at the Oscars with Banshees dominating. I kind of wonder if The Red Suitcase will win, but I don't really think it would win over those 2. And those are all the thoughts that I have. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Which short film did you like the best?